guys. Episode 14 of the Unstrung Heroes podcast. I'm Braxton. This is Bryce. What are we talking about today, man?
Oh, we got some big stuff. So we'll hit the Asun bracket or the Asun new conference a little bit later. First, let's go over the polls from this week. So we sent out a tweet that we saw on the Instagram. We let y'all vote. So the tweet was, pick a school. Like, is this bad advice? Pick a school as if lacrosse wasn't an option. And so we had 79% said yes, and then 21% said no. So you want to go first? Let's hear your opinions on this.
Wait. Did the tweet say pick a school based on lacrosse or with lacrosse? I thought it was
said that lacrosse. So they said the worst advice they were given was
worst advice. Yes.
Yeah, so to pick a school as if lacrosse wasn't.
Okay. I was just making sure that I understood the quote actually, because I was like, oh no. Okay. I have a lot of opinions on this actually. I disagree with this a lot personally.
Wait, like you disagree with like the actual like?
Yeah, I think it's good advice to pick a school without thinking about lacrosse, because the reality is that not everyone makes it to the PLL, and even if you do, on the odd chance, you're not going to be making like buku money. The thing is like the majority of athletes, which I feel like this is where they're trying to target, is like I would say below D1, because D1's like the top percentage of athletes. I would say for this quote, I feel like it's not a good message, because D3, D2, NAI, anything below D1 is going to see it, and they're going to be like, oh, well, I'm going to go pick a school based on this, and I think at that point, I think it's just better to look at the school academically first, because you want a good degree, and you want to be spending your money wisely. You know what I mean? Right. You don't want to be going to some liberal arts school for 4 years, I feel like, because sometimes, in my opinion, I feel like they're more expensive, and they're private, which actually they always are more expensive because they're private. And it's just like, it's not the best education, because, they might have cool gear and they might have like facilities, but at the end of the day, once you're out of college and you're looking for a real job, I feel like it just doesn't add up as much as if you were to go to like a better school with maybe less amenities for your lacrosse team.
Yeah, no. I personally had to think about this one for a bit. I was thinking, I actually agree, but I also disagree. So I think I see both sides of it personally. I don't fully agree with it, but I don't disagree with it either, right? So I guess the way I see it, there's two sides of this coin, right? So if you're trying to get recruited, you want to pick somewhere where you're going to develop, you're going to play lacrosse or whatever sport at the highest level possible, whether it's D1, 2, 3, NAI, JUCO, whatever. You want to go somewhere where you will have the opportunity to play and become a better athlete. Like that's what you want to do, right?
Right.
On the flip side, though, you also have to be somewhere where you're going to enjoy where you're at. You don't want to just you don't want to go somewhere and then not, you'll have your sport, but what are you going to have outside of your sport? Because you're only going to be doing your sport so much. Because I think a lot of people forget, you're not just an athlete when you go to college. You are also a student, which means you're going to have the life of a student as well as the life of an athlete. So, you have to ask yourself questions like, are you going to still enjoy that school when you're not playing your sport? Like, I know a lot of people say, like, they'll make the argument, like, oh, so, like, are you going to enjoy it? Like, what if you're injured? And they'll say, like, yeah, that's, like, not really a valid argument. I feel like it is a valid argument. Because, like, say something sidelines you can't play, grades, whatever the case may be. Are you still going to be enjoying yourself as a college student? Because that's part of the experience, being a college student and not just an athlete. Because you will get free time at certain points. Yeah, you're going to be busy, but being part of, being a college athlete means you're still going to have those student experiences. I feel like you don't want to be in the middle of nowhere and then, you're not having any fun, you're not enjoying your college experience because you were so worried about, maybe the team is very good, right? But if you don't enjoy, like, where you're at, it's not going to be fun because it's like, yeah, you want to go somewhere where you're wanted.
Yeah.
Play competitive sports, but I think you really do want to enjoy that college experience. And, I want to make that point of, like you said, you have to think afterwards, too. You can't just be thinking dead on lacrosse. You might be going to a good school that has lacrosse, but same time, you're not. There's a good chance you're not going pro. Like pro lacrosse is not that big, and it's very small chance you will make it there. You have to make sure you set yourself up academically for post collegiate. So I personally think it's a good point. I was told that in my recruiting process, but I do understand how people may say it can be harmful.
Right.
But I think in the long run, it's good advice.
I will say this: my old summer coach, who was a Division I coach for Detroit Mercy, he actually told us to pick a university based on like the degree you want to go into and like the best university that's going to offer that degree. He said because he knows people that have like gone to other schools that they made it to like a semi-professional box level, but they only made like they didn't make enough money to live, for the whole year. And he said that he knows people that went to other schools that were like better for the degree, and now they work at like Google and stuff like that. And it's like things like that make me always think about that, because I know that at the end of the day, when I was in my recruiting process, I always wanted to look at, okay, is this school like, is it a valid school? Is it like a well-known school? Is it something that people are going to be like looking for in the job process?
Right.
And that's an important thing. And like you said, location also, like not just the academic side, like you want to enjoy your experience. And I agree. And location's definitely a big part of it, because, if you're out in the rural, plains of Iowa, it's going to be boring. And I'm sure you can relate from this past summer. But, it's just like you don't want to be out there, even if the team is great, even if you have sick gear, even if you have a great culture. Like, you want to love the campus too, and that's the part of it that is always hard to find. I feel like that's a difficult thing to obtain, all those things.
It is, and it's like I don't want to make it seem like we're making the point where it's like, like look, we're saying, all that matters is academics. That's a factor. Lacrosse is a factor as well. Those are both options. You know what I'm saying? So it's like you have to do what's best for you. Now, if going to the middle of nowhere, I don't know, Ohio to play D3 lacrosse is what you want to do, what's best for you, by all means, go do it. Like if that's a place you're gonna enjoy, like, by all means. And I understand where people will say, obviously you're gonna think about this other stuff, but I think at the same time, those are just factors you really have to consider, as well as playing lacrosse. I mean, you're gonna be playing lacrosse regardless. If you're starting the recruiting process regardless, you've already thought about where you want to be playing.
Right.
So at that point, you have to look at what part of that is going to make you really send towards that school. So I think it's a good quote. Personally, I see where people may say, not as much, but I think overall it is healthy for people to hear.
I think an interesting point would be, like, if you're going through the recruiting process right now, also what's important to remember is that no matter what college, you want to go to, when you get offers from other colleges or visits, you got to remember that they're going to do the best job they can to make their school look the best. And you kind of have to almost ignore the hype sometimes, because they will do a very good job of reeling you in and really making you believe it's something. And I feel like it's not like they're tricking you into it, but it's just like this is the first college visit I have. This is the second college visit I have. It's so exciting, you get caught up in it and you just want to be like, this is it. But at the same time, what you have to do is take a step back, realize what you're really going to be in there for 4 years and what you're really going to experience, and ask yourself if that's where you want to be for the next 4 years. Because I feel like a lot of people end up transferring because they just, committed to one of the first 3 offers they had, and it ended up not even being something they wanted to do.
Oh yeah, I mean it's a long process, but I think but I can relate to that though. I remember my first visit, my first offer. I was like, yeah, this is where I want to go. I love it here, all of that. But at the end of the day, that school was not for me. You have to give yourself a step back. Let yourself, all right, cool. I got this. I got all this energy out of me. Yeah, cool. Now let me take a deep dive. Is this the area I want to be in? Is this the education I want? So, but like you said, there is definitely that hype. But definitely, if I could tell recruits back, or people who are going through the process now, you get your offer, cool. Take a step back and let yourself soak it in. Let yourself see all that area place has to offer. Because I mean, you don't want to look back once you're there and be like, wow, like I don't know if this was right for me. Because I feel like a lot of people do that nowadays, and I hate to say, you hate to see it because you want people to go where they, where they're going to actually succeed and love it there. But I mean, in reality, it happens. But like, that's why I say like I think it's very good advice to tell someone pick as if I wouldn't say fully pick as if lacrosse is an option, but definitely consider the alternatives like as well. So, but yeah, that's my piece on it at least.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with you.
But I think that's also like a good part. So let's go ahead and start segueing into the Asun conference, right? So we got a new conference. They were already a conference, but they just added lacrosse as part of their as what they're like offering. So that with that, you had the SoCon fold with men's lacrosse. So that means teams like Mercer, VMI, Jacksonville, Richmond, High Point, Hampton had to find new teams. Hampton High Point and Richmond moved to the A10. Hampton moved to the CAA, and then VMI moved to the MAC. So then you had Mercer, Jacksonville, Queens, and Lindenwood join the new ASUN conference, which had a lot of other teams, which we can get into. But I think the question is, I'll ask you. So, do you think this will be a competitive conference?
You want me to just straight out answer? I'm going to say no, it won't be this year. Aren't also Detroit Mercy, Cleveland State,
So I didn't mention, but like, yeah, those other teams, the teams you're mentioning. You want to go ahead and finish? I'm sorry, I cut you off there.
Yeah, no worries. So I'm just going to go ahead and get my opinion through with this. So we have, at the top of the bracket for me, for the ASUN teams, of tiers, I would say, is like Utah and Robert Morris.
Yeah.
Those are the two teams that I think are competitive and will be competitive. But as a whole, the conference won't be because I would say every other team is kind of building or stagnant and not really going anywhere or even going down because we have Utah, which is 5-0 in the conference, Robert Morris, which is 4-1, which is still good, and then Air Force 3-2, and then we get into like the losing category for Bellarmine, Detroit Mercy, and Cleveland State. And my opinion is that Air Force, honestly, has taken a step down in my opinion. Yeah. They used to be like a competitor, like a good team that would could beat Notre Dame or like could pull an upset against Duke, stuff like that. And now you're seeing more like of a bigger score gap in those games.
Yeah.
Detroit Mercy and Cleveland State are pretty much staying the same. They're not really improving. They're not really getting any worse. They're pretty much the bottom of the barrel in the ASUN, in my opinion. So that's why I'm saying it's not going to be a competitive conference overall. But I will say that Utah and Robert Morris are going to be competitive teams. And you can definitely look forward to seeing them in the playoff within the next 2 years.
Yeah, I mean, so going off of that, I'll go ahead and say I don't think it will be a competitive conference either. I mean, look, so you have one top 20 team, that's Jacksonville, and that's just based off of last year's like final rankings, right? And so like let's go into what you were saying about the different tiers. You have 3 different tiers of this conference. You have your top dogs, you have your all right, cool, and then you have like you're just bottom of the barrel, like you said. So like for instance, like Air Force has taken steps back. I mean, they beat Duke a couple years ago. Now, like, what have they done since? I mean, they went 8-7 last year. No, like impressive wins in. They lost in the conference tournament. Cool. You have Bellarmine. They went 4-13, but then they lost to Utah in overtime, the conference semifinals, which I thought was interesting. But it's like, I went back and watched that game. I still was not really like super impressed. And maybe they have some talent coming in this year, but I think I'd have to wait to see that first game to like really get a good opinion. Cleveland State, like you said, I'm not really concerned. They went 3-10. Detroit Mercy went 2-9. So it's like you have these teams who are here but they're like not. They're not going to really take me as let's put them at the top like right now. Like you said though, Utah, I think Utah, Robert Morris. I mean, Robert Morris won and then went to the NCAA tournament. Yeah, they lost to Delaware, but I mean, they got there. They've been building a team every single year. I mean, I think it was like what? It was 2 years ago. They almost upset Duke. So they're building a team, and I like what I see there. Utah, like you said, I fully agree with you. I mean, since like what they started in like what 2016, 17, somewhere around that area.
Yeah, it's somewhere recent. Yes.
It's like, dude, and you see like the strides they're making. And it's like they beat Jacksonville last year, which 16-10. So it's like, I mean, I think that's a top team to look at. And then so let's go into these two new D2 teams who just joined the D1. So Lindenwood and Queen. What are your thoughts on that?
Man, I think honestly though, okay, I'll be real. I think that this is a good conference for them to actually join because they're going from D2 to D1, so they're gonna have those like lower tier teams. To really, I feel like those are going to be the close games because you're obviously not going to be perfect your first year in D1. It's a completely different game. But I think it's a good way for them to start building a team and getting some, motivation because, when you go into D1, if you get slapped around all year, it's going to be demoralizing. And your team is going to have no gas, And I think like if you go to play Cleveland State or you go to play Detroit Mercy or Bellarmine, those games are the ones where you're like, it's going to be close. You're going to start to believe in your team that you can play up to this level, because it's like you're dipping your toes in the water, You're dipping your toes. You're feeling out everything. And then you're also going to have, like, the real deal, like Utah and Robert Morris.
Right.
And that's going to be the wake-up call. But I think these two teams are going to have a rough first year, obviously, as they should. I don't think that they have any expectations, but I think it's good for them for stepping up to D1.
So, out of the two, though, who would you say is probably going to have a better year, Queens or Lindenwood?
I just think Lindenwood. I don't know why.
Yeah, I got to agree with you, too. Well, so I was looking at this back. Lindenwood, they went 12-4 last year. They lost in the first round of NCAAs. Mm-hmm. But like Queens, Queens hasn't been to the D2 NCAA since 2019. Before that, 2014. And so, like, I'm not really sure, like, what building blocks they have right now. I mean, they lost in their conference semifinals last year. Lindenwood, I believe, lost in their championship. So it's like, I think that Lindenwood has a good shot at being decent. I think the games like Detroit Mercy, Cleveland State, that's really going to step it up. But I would put Lindenwood surprisingly in the middle of the pack in terms of, like,
really?
That might be a hot take for me.
Wow. I like it, though.
Yeah, no, I think it's a hot take, but I think actually, like, Lindenwood might be, like, middle of the pack. Okay, so I'll just go ahead and do this now. Early rankings of the Asun. I got Robert Morris at 1, Utah at 2, which I think is fair. Robert Morris won their conference last year, and Utah lost to them. I put Jacksonville at 3 because Utah beat Jacksonville, even though Jacksonville is ranked top 20.
Right.
I'm going to put Bellarmine under that.
Right.
And then at 5, we got Air Force, who they've been a sleeper team in the past. They're like Purdue in basketball. They will sneak up on you if you catch them lacking. Like,
I'm surprised you put Bellarmine over Air Force.
I only say that because Bellarmine almost beat Utah in the conference semifinals.
I feel like, okay, I wanted to go back to that, actually. I'm happy that you readdressed it because I was going to say, I feel like that happened because it was conference play. Like, it mattered, it's life or death. Of course, I feel like every team plays their best in that tournament. So. When
it matters, though. That is when it matters.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying, though. It's like, during the season, it doesn't seem like they can get that kind of play knowing being 4-13. So, I think that's maybe a little uncharacteristic of them, but you could be right, because honestly, Air Force has shown not that much promise, in my opinion, either.
I mean, I think they set themselves to such a high standard a couple years ago that since then, I personally don't think they've met that standard. And I think they still need to take some steps to meet that standard that they set for themselves. And I think I'll give it to Bellarmine. Yes, those records are two different things. You have 8-7 with Air Force and 4-13 with Bellarmine. But when I look at conference play and I feel like Bellarmine showed they wanted it more compared to Air Force, which is why I'm giving it to Bellarmine right there.
That's completely fair, honestly.
So then that's what I say, middle of the pack. Lindenwood, I have them at 6, right?
Okay.
I have Lindenwood at 6, Mercer at 7, Queens at 8. Cleveland State at 9, and then Detroit Mercy at 10. What do we think of that?
I would put Cleveland State at the bottom.
Really?
Yeah, they are. I think Detroit Mercy is better than Cleveland State. So yeah, I'll just do mine then. I'll do mine then.
Right.
I'm gonna go and say Utah #1 this year. Yeah.
Okay, this is preseason. This is what you're thinking.
Well, okay. Preseason. I mean, yeah. This is my opinion. Sure.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. Utah at #1, Jacksonville at #2. We're gonna go. No. Sorry. Utah 1, Robert Morris 2.
Yeah.
Then Jacksonville, and then I would go. I'm gonna say Air Force, and then Bellarmine, and then I don't think Lindenwood is gonna be the middle of the pack.
Really?
I don't think so. No.
You see, but I think that's a fair point, though. I mean, coming in, traditionally, if you look at the last teams who've hopped into D1 from D2, MCLA, whatever, they traditionally have not had the best year starting off.
Right.
But I want to give them credit because if you look at their transfer portal, who they brought in some D1 veterans. So, I think they have the leadership.
I did not know that, actually.
Yeah, they brought in a good amount of D1 transfers. But, actually, I meant to make this point. Detroit Mercy, as I found out earlier, Detroit Mercy also brought in some D1 transfers as well. So, and new coach. So, I mean, there could be some shifting in here. What do you think about this, though? What do you think are some big potential matchups that are going to happen in this conference that are going to be very important in determining the success of this conference?
I think that, a big matchup, actually, is going to be Air Force versus Robert Morris. I think so, because
Really?
I think Air Force might get upset. I mean, upset Robert Morris, sorry.
You see, I don't know if I agree. That's kind of a hot take.
It is, but I think Air Force might come out of the gates hot this year. I don't know why, but they have Xavier Airline still, right?
No. He plays for Navy.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he's been starting on the Navy's football team as well.
I thought that was Air Force's football team.
No. Well, he had offers to all 3 military academies.
Okay. Well, then maybe I am mistaken. Who else does Air Force have? Who is the new recruit they had? Didn't they get a good new recruit?
Yeah, but I don't think he's there yet.
Okay.
You see that? So I guess my potential okay, here's my big matchups. The top 3. So I think Utah Robert Morris will be a good one. Utah Jacksonville, that's going to be also a good one. And then Jacksonville Robert Morris. I think those are going to be
well, yeah, those are the basic ones. Come on.
But those are going to be the big ones that determine because
of course.
You're going to tell me they're going to take at least 2 teams to put them in the NCAA tournament. We know the way that they choose the teams. So I think when it comes down to it, they're going to choose at most 1 team from this conference. This is not a strong enough conference to take multiple teams. And yeah, they have 10, but you know how the NCAA selection committee works. They're going to take one team. And I think those matchups are going to really matter at the end of the day when it comes down to, all right, who are we taking?
Yeah. So, you're completely right. I guess I wasn't really thinking of it. I was thinking more like an upset standpoint.
From an upset standpoint, I think you're right. I think Air Force has a shot at upsetting someone. Who that someone is, I'm not sure yet.
It's going to be Utah.
Really?
I changed my mind. It's going to be Utah.
You know what? I will take you on that.
It's going to be Utah. I think so. I think it's going to be Utah.
That West Coast rivalry is a big thing, yo.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking too.
So, okay, I'll take that one. You know what? I'll take another one. I'll take a Bellarmine upset.
Okay.
Let's go Utah again.
Really? Okay.
They were close last year. Who's to say they don't want
Hey, that might be a good call actually. That could very well happen.
And it's Utah's getting better, but who's to say all these other teams aren't getting better? So I'll take those. I'll take a couple upsets over there. And I also another one. I think Lindenwood versus Queens is going to be huge.
That's going to be insane.
Both those teams.
That game is going to be so cool.
They both have something to prove, and I feel like when you put them together, it's going to be a big game.
That actually might be a must-watch game of the year. I think that's kind of cool.
It is very cool. I feel like when I look at it, yes, I won't say this is a competitive. I mean, you take other conferences such as like the ACC, where every single game there is going to be blood show. Like it's like
Right.
it's every game's heated. I don't think every game's going to be heated here because you're going to have too many games where it's going to be like whenever Robert Morris has to play Mercy. You mean to tell me like that's going to be a close game? I mean,
Probably not.
and I feel like there's too many of those types of games where it's going to be like a team potentially just getting blown out the water compared to.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, so
This is definitely the point that we were making earlier, that this is not
Right.
going to be a competitive conference. Like, the ACC is on a different level.
right.
I mean, not even close to the ASUN. But,
Yeah,
like,
I mean, you have conferences like the Patriot League, the ACC, Big Ten to some degree right now, which I think we could get in a later episode. But like, you have conferences like those which are going to be competitive. Right now, I see a lot of teams who are still struggling to find their identity and still want to get there.
oh, yeah. I wanted to ask you this. Do you think there's going to be any team in this conference that has 0 conference wins at the end of the year?
Dude, honestly, I want to say yes, but like I couldn't give you an honest answer because I think a lot of these teams were carefully put into this conference for that reason that like your lower tier teams, there are a lot of lower tier teams in here when you look at the overall NCAA rankings. I think there's enough here for someone's gonna beat each other. Like, and I don't know who's gonna be, but there could potentially still be one team that comes out of here with no wins. Honestly, I wouldn't be opposed to say possibly Queens.
Really?
Yeah,
What about Cleveland State? They went 0-5 in conference last year. 0 wins.
while they did, I still could see them beating Detroit Mercy. So
Really?
like, I'll give them that game, and then like a team like Mercer, maybe, but like
I think they might. That's what I was gonna say.
Really?
My pick is Mercer. I think that Mercer's gonna get actually beat by both Lindenwood and Queens. I think.
And I feel bad to some degree for Mercer because I feel like they have the tools to have such a good team. They're in a great location to where they can play ball year round.
Mm-hmm.
It's a good area. I mean, I just feel like they're really they're struggling to find that identity. Like I said earlier, I mean, I'll repeat it. Like as I said, I mean,
Right.
they really just need to find what's going to work for them in the long run, and they just need some ballers, and it's going to work out for them. Which Georgia boys, I'm rooting for them. I'm rooting for them.
Did you have their overall record from last year or no?
Yes, I did. So Mercer actually went 5-10, but this is why I don't think Mercer will. So Mercer lost by 2 to Robert Morris.
Okay.
They beat Bellarmine. They lost by 3 to Air Force. But like at the same time, they also got smoked by Utah. So it's like, I know they have the potential, and
Right.
they can do it. I mean, you lose to like the top team in your new conference by 2. I can't say that's not a competitive game. I mean, any game where in lacrosse where I would say if you're within 4 or 5, I would say that was a pretty competitive game. So
Yeah, I would say 3 goals.
3 is very competitive. I would say
Yeah.
you hung in there for the most part, 4 to 5.
Yeah.
Um,
4 to 5, really?
Yeah, I mean, I guess
I'll give you 4, not 5. 5 is a blowout.
okay.
5 is kind of getting smacked around.
You know what? I'll take that. I'll take
Not
that.
a blowout, but I mean,
Not a blowout, but
like
you got beat.
5 is like we won.
Yeah, you won because it's like you look at scores like 10-5.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd be like, all right, we got beat, but like
Right.
10-3, 10-2, yeah, we got blown out. Like,
Yeah, right.
but,
Oh man,
so preliminary, I think we hit this pretty well.
I do too. I think that we have some good ideas for this conference and how it's going to go next year.
So I think next we'll have to do the A10, which is also, I mean, they're not new, but they are definitely growing. I mean, they just added lacrosse. So it's Richmond, St. Joe's, St. Bonnie's, UMass are already members of the conference, like the schools were, but they were, but like lacrosse wasn't in the A10 yet. So they just added it. Those schools like joined their official conference. But then you also have High Point and Hobart joining that.
Really?
Yeah,
I kind of like that conference.
I actually like that conference. So we'll release a new poll. We'll say, will this
We're definitely gonna have to do this,
right? Because I don't want to spoil. I don't want to spoil mine. Yeah,
I'm not gonna either. I'm not gonna say anything.
Yeah, but I think so. I think next we'll have to do A10, but I think this, like for Asun at least, this will be pretty interesting. At least with the top, I'll give it top 4 teams max right now.
Right.
I'll
I
have
would
to.
say
I
top
think.
three.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be very interesting to see their first, each team's first games. Specifically, like Queens. I want to see their first game personally because I think that's going to be like, how do they do?
Right.
I want to see the intro games just to see how that goes. After that, I'll say, you know what, I can give you a little bit of a better opinion, like as to, February. I know Lindenwood plays February 4th, and then Queens plays February 5th first. Which they play Navy first, so
Ooh.
I don't know. But Lindenwood plays Marquette, so I mean,
I don't. That's kind of like 2 tough games, actually.
you see, honestly, Marquette's up and down though. So. Do you think
I feel like Marquette might be better this year than last year?
Which is why I say it's going to be a very interesting game for both of them.
Yeah, Navy. I don't know. Navy, you might be able to beat. I don't know. It feels inconsistent to me.
Because I've seen Lindenwood at the D2 level, but as much as there's not as a huge disparity between D1 through D3 lacrosse at the highest level. I'm not talking about low D3 levels. I'm not talking about low D2 levels. I'm talking about the highest levels. There is still a difference in pace of play. So,
oh yeah, definitely.
I think it'll be a good game to watch. Now, Queens with Navy, no, I have Navy all the way on that one.
Really?
Do you really think that Queens is going to?
No. I think they're both going to lose their first game, and I think it's just because of what you said, the pace of the game. They have to have experience. That's what it's going to be. It's just going to be like getting used to it. And it's like, I don't know I don't want to pull this card, but is Queens really? I think the big question with Queens is, are they Division I ready? Same thing with Lindenwood. Are they Division I ready? I think Lindenwood more than Queens.
We can 100% agree on that. Lindenwood is more ready than Queens is. Lindenwood went to an NCAA tournament more recently. Right. Queens hasn't since 2019, and I mean they didn't even win the conference last year. They lost in the semifinals. Granted, that's a hard conference, but I'm sorry, but when you look at when Mary Mac jumped up, they won 2 back-to-back natties. You can tell at that point, okay, you can make the argument, yeah, you're ready to play Division I lacrosse. Have they been as successful since then? Not really. But then that also, but now you have a team who hasn't. They did not win 2 tournaments in a row. They didn't even win their conference tournament. So how ready are they to compete at the Division I level and then try and win a conference tournament? Now, I'm not saying that's what they're trying to do right away. But can you make that argument?
I think it's interesting because I feel like there are better D2 or D3 teams that would be more suitable for D1.
I think we're both thinking the same team right now. Let's say it on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Salisbury.
What?
Oh! I was thinking Tampa second. But I don't know why. I feel like Salisbury is always consistent.
You see, yes, but I don't know.
Tampa hasn't been that good for that long, I don't feel like.
Okay, we're going to have to make this another topic then, because I definitely think there's teams you can put. There's D3 teams I would say before Salisbury. Salisbury's good, I'll give you that. But I would give I would give maybe 1 or 2 teams before I say Salisbury. One of those teams being Tufts.
Okay, that's true. I didn't think of Tufts, actually.
I personally believe that's a valid point to make.
I would love to see Tufts go to.
I would love to. You see, I think a lot of it, though, is their conference that they're in, and the academic league they're in, because it's the NESCAP. So I think that has a big part to play, which, fair, but I think it'd be interesting personally. But Salisbury, yes. Oh, yeah, I definitely think they could do it, but I don't know if I would put them above, say, maybe 1 or 2 other teams.
Yeah, that's fair. I think
that's a good point, though. I'm not. I definitely think they.
No, yeah, I know.
Division One, but I still think that, dude. Tampa went. They ran through teams it was
I know.
Competition. I feel like at that point they have the right to try and make the jump to D1.
I would agree.
Now, granted, most of their team is Division I transfers and whatnot. We could talk about that all day, but that's the thing everywhere now. People are transferring,
right?
Doing whatever. Fine. At this point, we can't really say much about it. But even I still think they've proven that they are willing to go the distance with whatever resources they have.
Oh yeah, absolutely. They definitely have.
But now I think that's a good segue to go ahead and
Yeah, probably just wrap it up.
let's go ahead and wrap it up on that before we start getting into all these.
I know. I don't want to like start something else because I'm like, I know we're gonna get so heated.
It's gonna get deep, but yeah. So that wraps up for today for episode 14. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure to subscribe, like, and make sure you go check out our Instagram as well. We'll be releasing more polls now because it seems y'all like those. I mean, honestly.
Vote on the polls. If you see them, vote.
Of course. All right. So that's it for me. Braxton, you got any last remarks?
Nope. Check out the Instagram though. You guys got to check out the polls. They're fun.
Check out the polls. All right. Sounds good. All right. Well, we'll see you guys next time. Peace.
Peace.
Yeah.